Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. My name is Stanna Welch. To begin with, let's acknowledge this geographical place where we are currently located, the home of and traditional lands of the Coahuiltecan people, original and indigenous stewards of this land, now called Bexar County and San Antonio, Texas. I've been a member of this church since 2000. It's been my joy and privilege to serve on the social activities, member care, pastoral care, ministerial internship committees, as well as continuing to be a longtime member of our wonderful choir. When I first came to this church, I was desperate to find a place of acceptance for my gay son and also for me, his mother. This quickly morphed into understanding how very special this place and the UU living tradition are. There is a genuine caring for others, which includes work for justice for all and for the planet. When my trans grandson recently came out, I knew there would be no condemnation, only love and support. I am eternally grateful for this place and for the amazing people here. If you're new to us or visiting for the first time today, we want you to know that our faith is all-inclusive, and all means all. Please feel free to sign in on the chat stream and fill out a visitor's card. We'd like to get to know you and follow up with you. Wherever you are on your life's journey, please know you are welcome here.
There is a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul, and it's telling me that I am somebody. There is a river flowing in my soul. There is a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I am somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There is a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I am somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There is a river flowing in my mind.
Lighting the chalice today is Isabela Noriega Lauder. Isa is assisted by her mom, Elizabeth. Isa is 6 years old and just completed virtual kindergarten at Promesa Academy. She likes ballet, balloons, and slime. Her favorite color is pink.
The flaming chalice unites our members in worship and symbolizes the spirit of our faith. Today's words are from Beatrice Hitchcock. She calls this the symbol that holds our vision. This is an everlasting flame for this community, offering its warmth to those who are cold, providing light to those who would see, purifying and transforming our virtual sanctuary into sacred space, this congregation into sacred community. May its flame burn true and high and strong.
Okay, let's hope it gets bigger this time.
You did it. Okay.
Look! It's growing quicker now. See?
Perfect.
We are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all are welcome as blessings and the human family lives in forgiveness and grace, whole and reconciled. We know that this aim takes work, and so we are committed to live and behave as a community in covenant. Let's recite our covenant that articulates our guidelines and builds us together in community. The words can be found on your screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. Today's service is about our motivations. That is, to ask, why am I here? What is it I wish to accomplish? Who am I? I hope today that we will feel invited to be persons who examine our motivations and to live with integrity. May we remember the mysteries from which our possibilities are born. May we honor space where our idealism and realism meet. I encourage us to imagine more than just what is. May we keep our eyes focused on our inner gifts, that through our efforts we may know the fruits of our congregational connections and an expansion of our deeper faith.
As a way for us to connect as a community, you're invited to share a joyful event, a sorrow or concern by entering it on the chat stream. Please let us know what is in your heart. For ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we come fully alive. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are heard and held in compassion. At this time of complexity, may we especially listen more deeply and grow more involved with each other. Let's join in silent meditation as we write our joys and sorrows on the chat screen while Jaime plays our meditation music. Take a deep cleansing breath and exhale. For all our joys, sorrows, and concerns, may we feel empathy and compassion. For all that is unspoken, may the caring of our community offer a space of deep kindness, loving, and just action. I invite you into this moment of reflection courtesy of the late poet John O'Donohue. He writes, It takes us so long to see where we are. It takes us even longer to see who we are. This is why the greatest gift you could ever dream is a gift that you can only receive from one person, and that person is you, yourself. Therefore, the most subversive invitation you could ever accept is the invitation to awaken. Once you start to awaken, no one can ever claim you again for your old patterns. Now you realize how precious your time here is. You are no longer willing to squander your essence on undertakings that do not nourish your true self. Your patience grows thin with tired talk and dead language. You see through the rosters of expectation which promise you safety and the confirmation of your outer identity. Now you are impatient for growth, willing to put yourself in the way of change. You want your work to become an expression of your gift. You want your relationship to voyage beyond the pallid frontiers to where the danger of transformation dwells. You want your God to be wild and to call you where your destiny awaits. May we realize our true destiny. Today's story wisdom is entitled Filling the House. Once upon a time, a farming couple had 3 sons. As happens in many families, the 2 older boys often bragged to the youngest about how much stronger and smarter they were. So when all the boys grew up and were ready to make their own ways in the world, their parents realized they only had enough resources to build one house for one of their children. So they built a brand new house and told their 3 sons, "Whoever can fill the house will be the one to own it." The oldest son was sure he could fill it up and claim it for his own. He bought a horse, a cow, and a pig, but they only took up one corner of the house. The second son smiled at himself because he was sure that he would win the house when he filled it. He brought in bale after bale after bale of hay, but even with all the bales he could find on the farm, it only filled half the house. Then it was the youngest brother's turn. His brothers laughed as they watched him bring in just one small sack. But then the youngest brother took a candle out of the sack and lit it, and the light shone so brightly from the candle it filled the whole house. So, neither of the older brothers, who always thought they were stronger and smarter than the youngest, got the house. It was the youngest brother who understood what it really took to fill a house. It's now time for our invitation to generosity. The offertory brings us the opportunity to share our gifts, gifts that have been nourished in our hearts and can bring inspiration and care to others. You may make an offering on our online giving portal through the link on the screen, or mail in a check made out to First UU Church. Let's enjoy our offertory anthem of a Kyrie written by Mozart when he was just 10 years old, and performed by our first UU virtual choir. We are grateful for the opportunity to share generously, to give from our hearts, and to support meaningful purposes. Today, I would like to share with you about integrating the inner and outer self. We'll look at the question, what motivates people in their religious beliefs? And a refinement of this question, what motivates religious liberals in our beliefs? A report from the American Anthropological Association finds that intense righteousness more often springs from fear and anger than from love and peace. This would seem to confirm what psychologists and therapists have discovered when treating patients whose emotional distresses include a pronounced religious element, who find security in answers given to them. Poets, writers, and others have observed that certain very religious persons suffer from too great a temptation to judge others and fall prey to pride and anger. One wonders if they might have been more mature and responsible had they searched for their own truth and meaning. These observations certainly cause us to consider the motivations of religious persons, all persons for that matter. Motivation is that element of today's sermon that has to do with integrating our inner and outer life. What most of us are most familiar with, what we actually see, are the outer actions, the behaviors. What for many of us is the real result of belief. Yet the purpose of our exploration today is to consider our inner motivation that prompts the action, This interior arena, I would posit, might actually be more real because it forms the real and authentic basis for its demonstration in the world of behavior and actions. Sure, religious beliefs may become a weapon in the hands of infantile adults, justifying and sanctifying hostile or fear-ridden behavior. Yet my thesis today is that for most of us, the search for God is a legitimate search for self. So, today we ask, what will we find at the heart of our quest into our innermost life? Fear and hatred? Love and peace? Or something else? I'm reminded of my first day at the Trappist Monastery, where as a 26-year-old seminarian, I was admitted as a 6th-month visitor. I was exhausted after almost 3 years of intense seminary curriculum. I found myself in the office of the abbot, where he inquired as to my motivation for visiting this ancient order of monks who had observed strict silence and manual labor for over 1,000 years under their Latin motto, ora et labora, prayer and work. My life had been a whirlwind of action for 2.5 years. I was a production machine. And now this man was asking me why I was here. What was my motivation, I asked myself? To get some rest, for sure. To find some peace, yep. Some balance, certainly. Yet, as I reflected and looked deep down inside, I responded to him that I desired to live in a way so as to find God in the midst of my busy and hectic life. His nonplussed reply was, "When you find yourself, Mark, you'll find God." It was like he had a familiarity with this motivation. Through the next 6 months of shared communal life with these extraordinarily ordinary men, I discovered a distinction in myself between a true self and a false self, terms often used in the contemplative life. The true self is that original face, as the Buddha calls it, one's spontaneous, unvarnished, unfiltered nature, that original face. It lies deep within each person and is one's essential level of being. Perhaps some might call it one's soul. This is in contrast to the false self. You know, the facade or facades that become one's identity, developed since childhood through emotional programs for survival and success. The true self and the false self. Twin natures, as I would learn. Much more clear to me through self-observation during my time of silence and in the rigors of daily manual work and contemplation. These are available to you too, in your active life, when you just make the time for contemplation. I was experiencing the need that many religious people feel for some contemplation and for a deeper connection with God, or as the abbot had told me, for connecting with myself. It is the need for liberation from the false self, the facade that masks one's true nature, one's essence. I experienced months of a regimen that looked pretty much the same every day, except on Sunday, when often 200 people would descend upon our humble monastery from 10, 20, 30 miles away or more to attend a Sunday morning service with a community of 10 monks, and a seminary visitor. Through this experience, I began to glimpse my true and original nature. In my newly acquired monastic parlance, I could begin to resemble a redeemed self, a self that is at ease with life and less afraid of life's challenges. Now, in ancient Athens, the genesis of Western thought, there was a deep respect for the psychological insights of the dual nature of life, as was indicated by the tremendous value placed in the tragedies and comedies of Aeschylus and Sophocles and Euripides. Community-wide attendance at these theatrical events honored Pan, the god of the wild. These theatrical rituals ultimately turned to philosophers for guidance. Thus, Socrates, in one of his prayers, gave this memorable prescription for spiritual health. He said, "Beloved Pan, and ye other gods that haunt this place, give me beauty in the inward soul, and may the inner and outer be as one." That's not only an ancient Greek statement, but a Unitarian statement. Centuries later, Augustine, a man of multiple facets, developed a keen eye for psychological truths. He taught that persons find themselves only when they're able to penetrate deeply enough into their experience to unite the subjective and objective aspects of their lives. It is also at this point, this uniting of the subjective and the objective, Augustine said. Sometimes I call him Augustine, sometimes I call him Augustine. He says it's at this point that a person finds God. The truth of this became more clear to me as I lived day after day and month after month with the Trappists, whose life in silence and discipline is designed to fulfill this search for the integration of the inner and the outer. This path of self-discovery is still a truth I pursue. It's a pursuit for a lifetime. The Trappists, however, live a cloistered life that is very repetitive and simple. They basically follow the same schedule every day, except on the weekly Sabbath, when they have more free time and visitors. Yet when one has free time, one is traditionally encouraged to go to one's cell, which refers literally to one's actual bed and study room, and psychologically to one's mental and emotional inner life. Go to your cell, Mark. Those of us who practice liberal religion are not concerned with conflicts between psychology and religion that much. They do represent a useful marriage of disciplines to help us clear some of our anxieties, shame, and hostility, and to enlarge our precious margins of freedom. Our purpose as liberals and progressives is to arrive at ethical and religious beliefs that will be the most authentic and expressive of our original face and the real situations in which we live. As Augustine and Abbot Michael said, persons find God when they find themselves. I find nothing in the science of modern psychology to persuade me any differently. A concept of God that emerges from a unified, unblocked, fully functioning self bears its own spiritual authenticity. Now, here at First UU, we encourage self-discovery, to probe our insights, creativity, and imaginations beyond all our limitations. Here, we stand for a self-discovery that results in self-affirmation and self-accountability. The question begs to be asked, how can we resolve to be accountable to ourselves and to others, to use our own powers, our minds, our hearts for the development of our own lives, while acknowledging that we live in a world of problems that bear much weight? Poverty, war, violence, crime, injustice, environmental degradation. These are so daunting that some of us are tempted to ignore them in favor of an inward, personal, pious, and religious development. Yet, as truly ethical and religious people on a quest, we cannot ignore these external realities. You see, we live in an interdependent state with all existence. And while we have resources of creativity for which we are responsible, we often live in circumstances over which we can exercise very little control, other than the control of our own responses to them. That self-control is, of course, the key to getting along and exercising our responsibilities. Most of us do not accept that there is only one way to live, or that there are only certain revealed answers on our path to a well-lived ethical and religious life. So how do we move forward in concert with our wider communities and with others who have differing beliefs and attitudes? We must do so with humility and the capacity for awe and for service. That humility calls us to remember that while we may be people of the question, of scientific fact, and even of skepticism, we can still be people of awe, an abiding sense of the mysteries of which we are a part. And to be of service, as we UUs say, is our way of prayer. Service is our prayer. Focusing our best intentions on actions that make life better, that make a difference. Fortunately, there is a healthy kind of pride in one's own self that goes hand to hand with humility. We call it self-esteem, a willingness to assert our capacities without guilt and from a space of freedom, responsible creativity, and community collaboration. We do this without anxiety or dependence on forces beyond ourselves. Here's something to remember. The truth is always greater than our grasp of it. Indeed, the truth that we do not yet know grows larger in proportion to the truth that we do know. And so to hold ourselves in esteem appropriately leads to holding others in esteem, as well as developing the capacity to hold in esteem the immeasurable reality and the great mystery of which we are all a part. Let us find the balance of self-assertion and collective interdependence so that we, as healthy, meaning whole, persons, may become an answer to Socrates' fervent prayer. Give me beauty in the inward soul, and may the inner and outer be as one. It's not what your motivation is. It's what your motivation does. In other words, rather than obsess about the innermost motivation, consider motivation as a force for change, a way of aligning your actions with nature's unfolding. When you live your motivation, the life's work of aligning your inner and outer life, you will achieve things that would never have been achieved. In this spirit, integrating your inner and outer self may achieve a harmony in order to advance the world's expression of what is truly human and truly alive. May it be so.
Fuente de amor, ven así a mí y al corazón cántale tu compasión. Sopla albornoz, la mar hasta moldear la justicia de la vida. Arraigame, libérame, fuente de amor, ven a mí, ven a mí. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart for the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
We now extinguish our chalice. But not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, or the fire of our commitment. Let's now enjoy the postlude by Jaime and the gathering afterwards during our coffee hour. I look forward to seeing you on Zoom. If you're unavailable to join with us, thank you for being here. Please go in peace. Until we meet again, take good care.